Since the nanosecond that Judge Aileen Cannon was assigned to oversee the classified documents case against Donald J. Trump, questions have swirled repeatedly around whether she should have been assigned to it. Now there's brand new reporting in the New York Times that reveals that even her own colleagues didn't think so and questioned whether Judge Cannon was right for this case. According to the New York Times, just after Judge Cannon drew the assignment, quote, two more experienced colleagues on the federal bench in Florida urged her to pass it up and hand it off to another jurist, according to two people briefed on the conversations. But the Times reports, quote, Judge Cannon, who was appointed by Trump, wanted to keep the case and refused the judge's entreaties. And she went on to make a number of questionable decisions that have delayed the case, including setting aside a full day tomorrow to hear what has been described as a novel argument that special counsel Jack Smith was not lawfully appointed, entertaining a motion by the ex-president's lawyers that most courts would have rejected from the outset. And in another bizarre twist, Judge Cannon has agreed to hear arguments from outside parties on this issue. The hearing is part of a logjam of unresolved legal issues Judge Cannon has allowed to pile up, but it could also be exactly what Smith needs to move forward. The Daily Beast reports, quote, if Cannon rules against Smith, legal scholars say he might have the ammunition he needs to finally request the judge's recusal from the case. Joining our conversation, former acting assistant attorney general for national security at the Justice Department, MSNBC legal analyst Mary McCord, and MSNBC legal analyst Christy Greenberg. She's a former SDNY criminal division deputy chief. Mary, things that look wrong from the outside often end up feeling wrong and being wrong on the inside. And that's what today's New York Times reporting seemed to prove to me. What's your take?
So it's interesting to me, Nicole, because I have actually said publicly a few previous times that if Judge Cannon were in a district with more judges around her, you know, she's the only judge in her courthouse, that probably a more senior judge, a mentor type judge, would have kind of pulled her aside early on and, you know, helped to guide her if she was going to keep the case, helped to guide her on things like how to handle a case of this type of a high profile case, how to handle CIPA, Classified Information Procedures Act hearings, you know, all of these kind of things. And so now today we're learning that not only did some senior judges pull her aside to try to give her some advice, but some of that advice was maybe you shouldn't take this case at all. It's extraordinary to me that this is being revealed. I mean, this is not the kind of thing that judges usually talk about, but it is common for more senior judges to reach out and try to help more junior judges on how to manage particularly a case like this, but even to how to manage simpler cases. So I'm not surprised to learn that that happened. I think it makes it more dramatic here because the reporting is not just that they tried to sort of advise her on how to manage this case, but also advised her not to manage it all, to not take it. And she, as is quite clear, refused that. And so for all of the times that I think some of us have tried to give her, not everybody, a little bit of the benefit of the doubt that she's not just biased, but she actually is sort of struggling because she doesn't have a lot of trial experience and she's trying to be extra cautious. This certainly, if this reporting is true, indicates that she really wanted to stay on that case, which I think adds to the, you know, adds to the arguments that she has got a bias here.
Christy, I've never sought to give her the benefit of the doubt. I believe she has displayed her bias and her incompetence. I don't think she's overseen any trials, maybe one or two, certainly not any involving classified documents. But lest anyone think this is a partisan issue, here's who told her to step away. Quote, the chief judge and appointee of former President George W. Bush is said to have made a more pointed argument. Quote, it would be bad optics for Judge Cannon to oversee the trial because of what had happened during the criminal investigation that led to Trump's indictment on charges of illegally retaining national security documents after leaving office and obstructing government efforts to retrieve them. And that was, of course, that after the search, the court-approved search, she barred investigators from gaining access to the evidence. It put in motion an entire legal brouhaha. The case came up to Brooklyn, and then she was overturned by the extremely conservative circuit. So she has let her bias flag fly the whole time. And at a moment when there's an historic lack of trust in the courts at the Supreme Court level and beyond, it seems like an extraordinary breach of trust for her to have kept this case.
Well, what's been interesting watching this is for somebody who wanted this case so badly, she has clearly been dragging it out. I think everybody can agree this is moving really slowly. So then you question why, and a number of people have suggested, well, she's a baby judge, maybe she doesn't know any better. But you look at something like what's happening tomorrow, this argument about whether or not Jack Smith is, had the authority to be appointed by the Attorney General. Like, there's Supreme Court precedent saying that there is clearly statutory authority to have appointed a special counsel. Like, there's a Supreme Court case on it. There are other cases on it. Brett Kavanaugh has written about the fact that this is a practice dating back to 140 years. And yet she's got a hearing on this. She's letting outside parties talk about it. She's got a full schedule. So every baby judge knows that a district court judge has to follow what the Supreme Court said, right? So this is not ignorance. At this point, she is intentionally dragging this out. And then the question becomes why. And the answer is so obvious because it helps Donald Trump. Each one of her rulings, every time she has gotten something wrong or she has punted some question down the road that she could have dealt with sooner, each time it's to benefit Donald Trump. And when each and every time it benefits him, the bias is quite clear.